Good morning, grade 3 and 4. Just a real quick lesson here today. I think most of your math won't be too tricky for you. You just have to make sure you're reading carefully and following through the examples that they give you in your books. Remember, Joanna, estimation means estimation. Okay, so third grade, make sure that if they're asking you to estimate, you are estimating with that. Today, you're going to be talking about weights and measurements and how they estimate with that. Grade 4, I'm going to go through a couple of the things that I said I would go through with you, but then one last thing for us to think about together. Thank you for your patience. I'll be giving you information as you pick up your supplies here in the next day or so to finish your heritage and family tree work, the thesaurus and dictionary that you need to finish that work inside your Wisconsin immigrant paper, okay, the actual paper that you have, or on the back of it, I guess it is. And then some examples of how to finish your reading response work from the chapter book that you read in the end of March, that you finished the end of March, okay? And how to finish that final project, okay? So I'll give you some things to go along with that. Grade 3, if you want to log off for me, that's fine. That's it for you. Remember, call me if you have any questions, okay? Thanks for your great work. Keep it up. And now grade 4, all of you had a little bit of a struggle on doing that diagram to show the windows again. And one of the things that you have to remember is I think you're thinking that it has to be this great big huge thing, but you have to look at what information they give you. That's what's going to determine how big your tree is going to be, okay? For example, in last week, the couple examples that we always had 3 different things, like 3 different doors or 3 light switches by 3 different doors. And so we would have 3 branches. Now, in what you had on your power-up test, you had 2 choices. You had 2 branches, okay? Let me grab my whiteboard here and bring it a little bit closer to you. So there were 2 windows. You had 1 window on the north side, and you had 1 window on the west side, okay? And so there can only be 2 choices, okay? The north window can either be open or closed. And if you're going to do this as a tree diagram, easy for me to say, huh? The next 2 choices, the west could be open or the west could be closed. If the north window is closed, the west window could also be open. So you'd have a closed open or closed closed there. Okay? So how many choices are there? How many combinations? 4. 4 combinations because you only had 2 ways that you could do it, only two windows, okay? So that's what's important. This is what should go on top, however many choices you have, okay? Where can you be? And then you have to look at how many of these choices do you have, okay? All right, so I hope that makes sense. Each of you tried and you had your own idea of how to solve it, but I hope that helps a little bit to know that you have to look at your information and each one is going to be solved in its own individual way. Certainly we can use the tree diagrams to help us out with that, all right? There you go. Other than that, make sure you're doing careful work. Today, speaking of being careful, when you have to read information on tables and graphs, oftentimes it's easy to get yourself off a line. So I always suggest use a piece of paper, take a scratch paper or a ruler or something, and when you're looking at it, actually put that underneath that line so that your eyes don't go by mistake down a line, okay? And read carefully. Make sure you're in the right column. If they're asking you for inches or feet or miles, be in the right column. If they're asking you for a metric measurement, be in the right column, okay? One other note, I noticed on number 1 on your lesson, you have a lot to do for that one. In fact, you have to make a bar graph. That might take up more space than you can fit in there. So you have a couple options. You could always do it on a separate sheet of paper, make the bar graph on a separate sheet of paper, but I also know it's kind of nice to have the lines to help you that we have on our page. So if you wanted, you could have number 1 go down into the box for number 4 a little bit. Number 4, you just have a short little answer that you have to do for that. But please be clear that what you have, if you do go down into box 4, be clear that part of it is for number 1. Okay, so mark that clearly for me, okay? But you have permission to do that if you need to. Make sure you call me if you have any questions. I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.